Welcome all. So today we are going to see a tutorial to analyze the sentiment of website comments with AI and machine learning through Microsoft ML.NET. Now this tutorial was earlier split into 4 parts and it's already published on my YouTube channel. So for those of you who have seen all the parts are still welcome or invited to see this one tutorial which has got all the 4 parts, and for the sake of continuity and for the sake of learning in one complete lecture, you are most welcome. And please, if you like this lecture, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and press the bell icon notification so whenever I upload any fresh video, which I am doing almost regularly every week, and you will get the instant notification for what I am uploading. So what is sentiment analysis? Sentiment analysis is the process of determining whether a piece of writing is positive, negative, or neutral. Sentiment analysis helps data scientists with within the large enterprises gauge public opinion, conduct nuanced market research, that means narrowed or targeted market research, and monitor brand and product reputation and understand the customer experiences. Now, for instance, sentiment analysis may be performed on Twitter to determine overall opinion on a trending topic. Companies and brands often utilize sentiment analysis to monitor the brand reputation across social media platform or across the webs as a whole. And one of the companies is Trustpilot. There's a Trustpilot website, which is a renowned website across the world, which actually allows the users to review certain different um, shopping experiences on other websites, and they put their comments on there. Now this tutorial shows how to create an ASP.NET Core Pages application that classifies sentiment from website comments in real time. The comments are classified neutral, toxic, and non-toxic. So you can follow me on my social profile: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blogger, and website. And by the end of this tutorial, you'll know how to install the model builder for ML.NET and create ASP.NET Core Razor Pages application, prepare and understand the data, load the data, train the model, evaluate the model, add the code to make predictions, following the steps in that lecture, and configure the web page and run the application. Okay. So because we'll be working with Microsoft ML.NET platform or machine learning.NET and on their model builder. So there are some prerequisites, which are Visual Studio 2017 version 1590, 15.9.12 or later, or ideally Visual Studio 2019 Community Edition, and the .NET Core 2.1 SDK software development kit or later. Okay, so these are the prerequisites. Let's and click on next, and I'll give the name Sentiment Razor for this project. Sentiment Razor, and click on create, and it will create the ASP.NET Core web application. So it is now highlighted on web application. We'll go for this. Okay, .NET ASP.NET Core 3.1, .NET Core, and configure for HTTPS fine, and let these two remain unchecked. Okay, and then click on create. I'll come back when the project is created. Now this project is created for me, and I have to install the model builder, but I have already installed it, so I will tell you the steps you need to do for doing it in the first time. So extension, manage extension, and online is clicked for me. So I need to search for install because it is already there, ML.NET model builder preview. So in case it was not installed, then you have to search for this ML.NET model builder, right? So in my case, I could either disable it or revert it to some older version, but it is already installed. But you have the step is this what I have shown. Again, extension, manage extension, and look for the version on the online tab. Now, once this project is created, what I'll do, I'll go back to the original article on which this is based, and I will now have to prepare and understand the data, for which I will actually right click and open this data set in a new tab. Now this data set, it is actually a TSV file, tab separated value, and it has got actually three headers: sentiment, sentiment text, and logged in. Logged in is actually, you can ignore this, it doesn't carry any meaning. So all is actually that is relevant for us is the sentiment, that is 1 and 0. So 1 is actually a toxic sentiment and 0 is a non-toxic. So you can yourself judge like this, if I just amplify this, magnify this, you can now, it is easier to read. So sentiment 1 is rude. Dude, you are the rude, upload that, call picture back, okay? And that is of course a toxic sentiment. It's something that is rude. This data set is actually our guide for training the model. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll get back to the Visual Studio and right click on this project. First of all, before that, we have to save this data set somewhere, anywhere. You can say save as. Let us save it on this directory, it doesn't matter. We'll see why. Any path you can say basically, okay? So save as this and then come back to Visual Studio. On the solution, if you click on add, right click add, and where is, I am looking for add machine learning. Add machine learning. So it's on the project level. Okay, add machine learning. And this is the text classification I'm after. So let's have a look at what it says. It says that it classifies text data into 2+ categories. For example, predict if comments are positive or negative sentiments. Okay, so you can learn more about training with your own data in Model Builder, right? So local CPU environment, it has already detected the processor and the memory, and next step is data, and this is input type is file rather than the SQL database. So I'll select the file. Now this one is actually, I have saved it in the previous lecture from this site, Wikipedia Detox, and I will load it. And column to predict label, this is, I'll select the sentiment. Okay, sentiment is the label. It is on the y-axis. If you remember from the first lecture on helloml.net for linear regression, the label is dependent upon the features, which is on the x-axis. And there are 2 columns selected, but I don't need that logged in column, so I'll get rid of that. And then I will go for the next step. Click on the next step, and time to train, Microsoft recommends it to be 30, though the default is 10 to get a bit more training. So start training. It is training the model. So in the meantime, that the time remaining out of the maximum time that you are training for, it is actually doing some stuff. So it is generating, it is putting it in under the headers, code generated trainer, macro accuracy, duration, and alteration. So I will take what is micro accuracy and macro accuracy in a bit, and 3 models explored, and it is finalizing the model. So training is complete. You can train again, or you can go for the next step. So we'll go for the next step. So accuracy is 72.17, and model is this, averaged perceptron over, and sample data is rude. Okay, and if you click on predict, it will say it is 1, that is, it is 90% toxic. If I click the next step, now let's add the model and necessary projects and references to the solution. Once added, open sentiment ml.console app because two projects will be created. One of them is console app and another is a class library to see how to consume your model. You can then copy the code from this generated console app to the app where you want to consume your model and make predictions. But we will continue without actually working anything for the time being on console app. So click on add to solution. And you can see that immediately two more projects have been added. One is the console app, and this is sentiment razor ml.model is a class library project. And it creates the ML context, machine learning context, and build the training pipeline, train the model, okay, evaluate quality of model and save the model, okay. And it is building, this method is building the training pipeline and it is doing the train model, okay. And this is also program classes having some code. However, we are into this ml.model. This will be used because we will be showing the sentiment analysis on a website, ASP.NET Core, rather than a console application. So it's already, this code is created for you. You didn't have to write a single line of code. That is the beauty of this model builder. You don't need to be an experienced ML.NET or machine learning programmer to do this. And it says that only the sentiment razor model project is used because predictions will be made in the sentiment razor web application rather than in the console. I have got this and I will install this one. Now I have installed this Microsoft.extensions.ml project. Okay, so it's in the installed project and I'll close this window. Now what I'll do is I will close all these windows, close all tabs, and I will go back to the sentiment razor project and click on the startup file. And then I'll have to use two libraries, system.io and Microsoft.extensions.ml and sentiment razor ml.model in order to be able to use this class library. Okay. Now I will create a global variable to store the location of this model path. Okay. And then I will create a function or a method, which I will explain in a bit. And first I will copy it from the tutorial and I will then explain. So I've got a method copied on my clipboard, which I will paste after the configure method, and that is to get the absolute path. So by feeding the relative path, you can get the absolute path of the model file. Okay, it is a file info object and give it a name, data root, new file info method, and it initializes a new instance of the file info class, which acts as a wrapper for a file path. Now this is taking from the metadata reflection type of program.assembly.location, and it finds the root of the file data root at this location through assigning new file info and passing the assembly.location. Okay, so it gets the full path or UNC location of the loaded file that contains the manifest. So this will give you the full path. And then assembly folder path is data root.directory.full name. So you have got to the root of the data folder, and then from there you get this directory instance, this directory property, and then full name property will get you the full path of the directory of the file. And then in another string variable full path, this is path.combine assembly folder path and the relative path. So that will give you the full path. So path.combine combines two strings into a path, and this will give you the full path, and you will get the full path returned to you. Okay, so hope you understand. Now here I have used the get absolute path method that we have copied and pasted and explained a little bit, this one, and to set up this model path and passing this parameter mlmodel.zip. Now I have already not told, mlmodel.zip is the best model that is predicted after the training period is over, after the training model training is over. So this is the best evaluated model, and it is being actually created as a zip file over here. Next, I will configure the prediction engine pool in the configure services method by adding this code, services.add prediction engine pool, and I will give a model input and model output. Okay, model input, let us see what is model input. So go to definition. So this was the model input, it was created. And what is the path of this model input class is model, the model that is already created, model input. Okay, so model input and model output classes was automatically generated when the model was trained with the model builder. So here these two classes are input into the add prediction engine pool. And what does this do? It adds a prediction engine pool builder to the service collection, and not from file, from the model path, which we have actually created over here, which we have assigned by getting the absolute path and giving it a parameter of ml model.zip. So this is actually setting a model path. Okay, so it is configured into the configure services method. Now we have got till this point. So we have added the add prediction engine pool to the services class of this configure services method. We have now pages index.cs html.cs page, and I will use this using statement. So we'll use sentiment razor ml.model and microsoft.extensions.ml. And in order to use the prediction engine pool configured in the startup class, which we have done earlier in this stage here, so instead I'll inject this one. So what I will do is I'll just copy this part. All right, and just get rid of the underscore over here, and then I hope you know dependency injection. So we are injecting the dependency prediction underscore prediction engine model, which is declared over as a variable equals to the passed in constructor to the passed in dependency to the constructor. So prediction engine pool. All right. So this is called constructor injection. So going through step by step, in the next step is we have to create a method handler that uses the prediction engine pool to make predictions from user input received from the web page. So below the onGet method. So now you have got, if you come back to the code, you've got this onGet method. So below this onGet method, you have to create another method for which the code is here. I will copy this and then paste this. So what this code, what this method is doing on get analyze statement. Okay, so it is getting from the query a string. Okay, and then see what we'll do next. So inside this on get analyze statement method, return neutral sentiment if the input from the user is blank or null. If the user doesn't return anything, it's just a blank or null of the model input. So copy, and we are still constructing our method. So var in model input classes, which are the columns, sentiment, sentiment text, and logged in. Okay, so go back, and the next line is use the prediction engine pool to predict sentiment. So we are making use of this prediction engine pool here, which was injected as a dependency as a constructor, and and nextly convert the predicted bool value into toxic or non-toxic with the following code. And then finally, we are not done yet. .NET Core project, and let me copy this and paste this with the code that I have got on my clipboard. Okay, so this is the code. At model index model is the model is index model, and for this razor page, for this index model class, I have changed according to the Microsoft article that I am following, as you are aware if you have come back through the first 3 lectures. So live sentiment text area has got an ID and it got 45 columns, placeholder, type minute text like a short review, and this is basically the div class sentiment, your sentiment within h4 tag, and following that there is a paragraph which shows the toxic, neutral, and non-toxic icons. Okay, and then there is a div class marker and div ID as a marker position. Now this will be clear when I get back to the next part, which is changing the site.css to put the sentiment CSSs. All right, so I have opened the site.css file and then paste below the last class the sentiment style for sentiment display. So it has got a sentiment class, and then within that sentiment class, sentiment for h4 header, sentiment for paragraph, sentiment for the marker class, sentiment class for the marker class, and sentiment for marker, which is for the div, and sentiment for marker following a div within a div, and sentiment for marker class for a label, div of label. All right, so let's just indent it a little bit. So shift tab, and then these two classes for the shift tab to make it align properly. Now the next thing is that I'll have to write some code, some functions on the JS folder site.js. So let's do that. Now I have pasted the code for a function, JavaScript function get sentiment, and it gets the user input. Now what it does is that it makes a HTTP request to the onGetAnalyzeSentiment handler with the user input. Okay, so we have written onGetAnalyzeSentiment in the last lecture, and this is, it is getting the user input and then makes a HTTP get request to the onGetAnalyzeSentiment. So I think this is simple enough. So it returns from this part index question mark handler equals analyze sentiment. So even if you write just analyze sentiment, the code, the script will put the on get, so it will get the right on get analyze sentiment handler, and it passes the text from the user input, which is passed as an argument to this JavaScript function, and dot then response. Response is return response.text. So it returns the response from the get HTTP request to that handler, passing the user input. Now I have pasted another function, update marker, with the marker position and sentiment. What it does is that it dynamically updates the position of the marker as and when the sentiment is ascertained. So it sends the marker to either the toxic position or to the neutral or to the non-toxic, as we'll see soon in the application. So please watch it till the end when we run the application, and just have a bit of patience. Thank you. Now finally I have pasted the code for an update sentiment function, which gets the user input from the user and passes it to the onGet analyze sentiment handler through the get sentiment function, passing the user input, and then updates the marker dynamically through the update, calling the update marker function. Now I finally bind the event handler update statement through to the text area, which has got an ID of message, and now we are ready to run the application. Okay, so I click on IIS Express button. So when I run this application, it localhost on this port, it comes with the live sentiment, but when I write a message, model builder is cool, it does not show me anything. Okay, and the reason that is because there is a runtime error, which is a fault from Microsoft, which I have corrected and I will show you. It says string 1 was not recognized as a valid boolean. So if you put the prediction over here, so prediction is 1. So now why it is not working? So let me just stop debugging and I'll tell you, because it is, this prediction comes out to be a string. Okay, so it becomes a string, but its string 0 or 1 cannot be directly converted to boolean, right? So prediction dot prediction, it is a string. So what you need to do is to fix this error, you need to convert dot to int 16, and you operate that conversion on this prediction dot to predict, so that this string is converted into first to an integer before being converted to Boolean. Right. So with this change, if everything is all right, it should work. Click on IIS Express again. So I have run the application and it is loaded. Now, if I now paste model builder is cool, you can see that the position of the marker changes from neutral to non-toxic, and you can test it by feeding it a little bit of more information. You can test it further by feeding from the TSV file. So you have to follow the TSV file, and you can paste the other sentiments and see it is shifting to from non-toxic to toxic. Okay, because okay, and that is the end of the series of tutorial on live sentiments. And in this tutorial, we have actually created the web page. We have modified the web page and put some JavaScript functions and changed the CSS to reflect the sentiments correctly.